And hello, Musicto people. Yes, this is the third Facebook Live Curator interview, and this week we have the amazing Tommi Tikka, who's the curator of the Amazing Music to Celebrate Life playlist. How you doing, Tommi?
How you doing? Good to be here. Not sure about amazing. Pretty tired, but it's good to be here. Try to be amazing.
Well, if you can be amazing when you're tired, I think that's pretty solid. Now, okay. You're up in Helsinki, aren't you?
I'm in Helsinki, yeah.
So what time is it with you?
It's 7 o'clock, a little bit after 7. It's forgot my glass of wine downstairs. You know what? You sent me that email, and I thought that for sure I'm going to bring that with me. But of course, now I'm upstairs, and it's not like I'm going to go anywhere, is it? So I'm just going to be looking at you drinking your wine.
I've gone for a gin and tonic today.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, I'm in Scotland looking after my mother. And my mother has developed a gin habit.
Well,
So
how old is she? It's never too late for that, I guess.
Yeah, 76, and she's doing well. There's a local store up the road, and they basically manage to sell her a bottle of gin every time she goes in. So, talented people, that is amazing. Like, you should text the family and get one of your kids to come up with the wine. But all right, let's bring it into music. So, I have no idea where this conversation will go, but I do know it will go somewhere interesting because, I mean, you and I are of a similar vintage, and you have a lot of experience in the music industry and in the music world, which I'm looking forward to getting into. But you decided you wanted to create a list for music to celebrate life. So just give us just a little bit of insight into where that came from and what that was about.
I mean, I stumbled on your web pages. That's where it came from. As a matter of fact, to make a long story short, and I was looking for a place to send my brother's new music. And I was going through blog after blog, reading the descriptions, as to what they're covering, what they're not. Very difficult to find anything that I would sort of feel comfortable sending anything to, really. Because, I mean, it was, as you go through the blogs, all these genres, basically. It's not that there was anything wrong with the blogs, and I'm digressing. But I don't know if you've noticed, but you said that we're of the same vintage. When we were young, there were like 5 genres. And now if you go to Google and basically Google music genres, and you get about 1,500, And so trying to figure out what music is what genre for me is very, very difficult. That is until I stumbled on your pages. And there were a couple of really interesting lists. And there was that one university professor from England, I think. Yeah. And I looked at what he had done and read a lot of the descriptions, like the music. I mean, I think if I remember correctly, he covered one Brian Wilson song that I like a lot.
It was Ethan Hine, who was a professor out of New York State.
Right.
He did music to sing your hipster baby to sleep.
Right. Yeah. You see, because the thing that actually caught my eye was that usually when people cover Brian Wilson or the Beach Boys, it's like the usual stuff. But this was, he was covering a song from, I believe the album's called Imagination. It was the second song on the CD called, I don't remember what it's called, but it's from '65 originally. He finished it for that album.
Right.
And it's one of my favorite tunes. And it's beautiful. And I don't know if you've listened to it, but it's
oh yeah, I mean, I listened to. I'm crazy enough. I listen to every track that comes in, but it's go back to your brother's music.
That She Needs Me or something like that. That's the name of the song, I think.
What genre would you say your brother's music is? I mean, forget genre. I mean, describe it, just out of interest. So
you see that the interesting thing here is that for me it's rock, but if you check out what rock is today, it's a lot heavier than what it was, when I was a kid.
Right, the Beatles were a rock band.
Right, the Beatles, the Stones, and so. But if you type in rock or whatever, go to Spotify, check out the playlists they have, for rock music. And you end up with something that's considerably heavier than I actually like heavy rock. But I
do
mean,
you think that
basically.
do you think that people are completely genre driven? Do you think that, I like hip hop, that's the only thing I listen to, or I like, pop?
Yeah, way too much, I think. But I mean, that's a dangerous thing to say, because then you're kind of criticizing it. Everybody has the right to listen to the kind of music they want. But I'm not. I guess you could use the term genre sensitive. I'm not at all. Lyrics are important to me, and so basically, if I'm really honest with you, a lot of the dance music of today, it's not off-putting. I like some of the songs, but the lyrical content is a little bit shallow for my taste. I'm trying to be very diplomatic here, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, we're music curators, and you can be, but that's very utilitarian. If I think of dance music, I mean, dance music it's that energetic, it's a very physical thing. You go out to experience it, and it's about having that. I mean, when you're in a room and you're not even really outside, and there's thousands of people, and you're all on the same groove, and the DJ's in, and he's got
sure. It's got time and
music.
Yeah. You bet, yeah. But I don't remember what the original question was anymore. Oh yeah, but then the genre problem was basically happening when I ran into Musicto pages, and then I noticed this bit as I was sort of going through the page. I noticed that there was like, "Do you want to be a curator?" And then I thought that, yeah, actually I do. Sort of forgot what I was doing completely. And I there was something about the description. I think that you had written somewhere there that you have to be a certain type of person and have your shit together. And I thought that, well, yeah, it's true, and it's sort of, and something about if you promise to do something, get it done, whatever. It just sounded sort of businesslike a little bit, because that was in a good way,
right?
Because see, a lot of the musicians, I'm not trying to say that, don't take it as it's because I've like you said, I've made music for a long time, and so I think that one of the things that with musicians, and I'm sure you've had the same experience, things don't always happen like, and when people say they're going to be somewhere at 7 o'clock, they might be there, right, unless gig that you get paid for, and unless it's a set. But then again, then you have management, recording companies sometimes involved, and it makes it different. But I like the tone. It was sort of, I don't know why, but I mean, sort of reminded me of the American.
There's a couple of things. Look, there's a couple of things to take away from that. That page took 3 months to write.
Yeah,
and people talk about, it was just a page. But there was version 1, and then there was version 2, and I think it went through 18 or 19, and I still tweak it to this day. You take that idea, and I've played with many musicians over the years, and professional musicians, and I mean, I've played with guys who are pro touring musicians, play with big bands. All of them showed up on time, had great personal hygiene, had done the homework.
Very lucky. Yeah, sure.
And the people that you met along the way who were going to make it, they treated music like their career in the profession. And
yeah, sure. I mean, of course, you get those as well. Yeah, you're right. But I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, how's this? You had clearly put some time and effort into those pages, and plus, I like the writing. I like the way it was written. I like the approach, the fact that I still think that the phrase that you start the whole thing with, that music's the most important thing in your life. I like that. It's kind of conversational. It was almost interactive, if you know what I mean. So I'm sitting here trying to find a place to send my brother's music to, and all of a sudden I start having a conversation with a web page. And without wine or any other substance, I mean, it's like, but I like that feeling that I got. There was something about it that was just very inviting, as opposed to, because sometimes you look at pages, they're haphazard and what have you. and they're a little bit off-putting. You know? But in the case of music too, I felt like, you know, I gotta take a few moments here, a few minutes here, and write a few samples and
it was really cool because I'll reflect back. So we get at least 2, if not 3 or 4 Curator applications a day now, and the quality of the applications it you know varies widely. And by the way, if you're watching this and you've sent in a Curator application, we haven't reached out to anybody in the last month because we're just clearing a backlog and we're about to start new interviews. You know, when I get back to LA next week. But your application was super cool, and what I really liked about it is that you could write, and it was the writing. If you haven't had a chance to check out Tommi's playlist, the writing is one of my, I mean, the songs are great, but the writing is brilliant. You write way more than the average Curator does. And you come in with a vignette, which is brilliant. And then you tell the story of the song and you give context and you give additional links. It's bloody cool. So you could, how did you get, why Celebrate Life?
Well, I suppose let's get back to what it's called, because I thought just the other day I said to my friend that I should have called this something else, because celebration's a kind of a tricky word. But I'll tell you why I chose that, because first off, I think that celebration of life, like I say in the introduction, it's not just celebrating the good stuff, it's celebrating life, period. And so if you choose these right songs and you can link them with your own life, then in a way you're also celebrating, you're taking a walk down the memory lane, you're celebrating your history, you know. And all these memories, even the ones you don't write, you know, they come back to you, because that's, you know, the power of music. That's basically what happens, is that you listen to a song you listened to maybe 20 years ago in some sort of a situation. I mean, you probably know what I'm talking about. You know, it's the same as sometimes, you know, you walk around downtown LA or Helsinki or San Francisco and some woman passes you by and she's wearing a perfume that somebody used to date. You know, it's just like you're back right, you know, that memory is so vivid. It takes you right back to where you were maybe, I don't know, decades ago. And so celebrating memories and celebrating the lyrics of the songs that I choose for the list, you know, and that's of course the key. And as a matter of fact, I was just listening to a Led Zeppelin song, When the Levee Breaks, the other day, which I think is a great tune. I just sort of thought that, you know, I should probably do a write-up on that. You know,
you know what? But you and I were talking about that, and I came back with, I mean, on Julia's list, who we were chatting with 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, you sent me a link. Yeah,
that Maria Reina track. I mean, the Bonham drum beat on that was just like.
Is that Bonham? Like
no, that's not Jason Bonham, but it's that whole.
Sounds like him. Yeah,
yeah. It evokes that kind of vibe. Yeah, but that's. I mean, let's spin this on a little bit, because if I look at the music on your playlist, you're spanning, you know, generations and decades. I mean, you're picking new stuff and you're picking old stuff. How do you come up with the tracks that you post?
You know, it's sometimes difficult. I mean, I kind of like I noticed that I've learned to, you know, we get a lot of submissions. I like those. Every once in a while you get real good ones. And obviously when you've been a sort of a young aspiring artist, that I'm not anymore, but at one point in your life, and you've sent your music to recording companies, you've sent them to magazines and sent your songs to magazines and all that. Then you kind of, I don't know, I'm attracted to the fact that I get to find out about what's happening, you know, and I feel like I want to give them reviews. I don't know if that makes any sense. I mean, just, it was really difficult. I remember when I started out, it was really difficult to get anybody to listen to your stuff. And so, you know, if I listen to a song and I think...
When did you release your first single? What year?
That's 90, 93.
93.
Yeah.
And everything was just way different.
It was way different, yeah. Yeah, sure. But I mean, it was, you know, I remember that because it came out and I thought that I'm going to be a star. Little did I know that it's not that easy, you know. It's really difficult, even if you get a recording contract and you get something out there. Somebody takes it to the radio. It means
what
nothing.
markets were you working? Were you working in the, you know, were you in the European market, you know, the Scandinavian market, or because you were in San Francisco for a while, weren't you?
Well, when I was growing up, yeah. And then later on, I lived in Chicago. But I mean, that's when I was in business. You know, I was. I don't think that I touched my guitar during those 3 years at all. But I mean, you know, once again, like I said, I mean, yeah. But anyway, get back to that maybe in a bit. But the thing that I love most is getting these submissions, because I think that there's a lot of talented people out there. And I mean, if you go to my list and check it out, you'll find a band called The People, the Poet, which they just blew me away. Rob Murphy, incredible artists, you know, and over in my neck of the woods, nobody would know who they are, you know. And
why would they not know who they are? Because I mean, I have theories on this, but why?
Well, number one, I think that in Finland, I'm not sure if this is true for Scandinavia, but at least over here, I think that music sung in English is just not made anymore. And if it's made by major labels, it's just very sort of dance.
So the Finnish market, it's Finnish language. It's the music on the radio
now more than ever. I think somebody said the other day that it's changing, but you know, I'm not convinced. But then again, I mean, I'm not the guy who knows, you know, if you want to know what the trend is, I'm probably the last person you should be talking to. But, you know, it's, I mean, that's, I'm proud to say it, but that's basically what it's been like, I think, over here for the past 5 years. There was a time period, I think, especially if you want to listen to some incredible Finnish rock bands, Hanoi Rocks, who were rather popular in England.
Yeah, rings a bell.
Yeah, they're awesome. But I mean, there haven't been that many.
That's the whole. One of the things that frustrates me most about the music industry is that you can send me a track from. In fact, this happened recently with your brother's band, and we can publish the track, and it's available for you to stream on Spotify in Finland and, you know, maybe certain European territories, but it's not available to you know, spin on Spotify in the States because we have carved the world up into territories.
Oh yeah, like DVD regions. I hate those.
Right. And you can release your track, but you don't release it to this territory. I understand the reason behind that, because back in the day, to break a track, you needed to have on-the-ground personnel, and maybe this company had a better relationship with Japan, and this company had a better relationship with Germany, so you would release your track or license your track to a different distributor based on their, you know, strengths in country. But as everything becomes digital, and, you know, you access Spotify the same in Sao Paulo as we do in San Francisco, as we do in Trieste, as we do in Sydney.
Yeah,
it's just they gotta sort this shit out because it's making it hard for the people.
I agree. I mean, it's annoying, isn't it? Plus, I don't understand it. But then again, old habits do die hard. I mean, we're kind of used to these different regions, and I wonder, Netflix. I mean, over here we get Finnish Netflix. Over where you are, you get Scottish probably, and over in the States, it's, you know, but and if you get access to the, let's say you're traveling and you're in the States and you sort of log in with your what have you, and you see what they're offering, you're like, you know, Jesus, you know, it's a lot more of that. Whereas if you have a really small market like in Finland, there's a lot of stuff, but I mean, it's nothing compared to what you would have over, for example, in Los Angeles.
Right, we used to. I mean,
I'm talking about Netflix but I mean,
it's the same thing. It's access to content, and this is the overall. I mean, when people say what is music to, and I say it's crazy ass music lovers who are building audiences. Well, because that's really what we're doing, and we're basically building audiences across boundaries, because your playlist lives on the internet. It lives on a website, it lives on Facebook, it lives on Twitter, it lives on Instagram, and none of that has geographic boundaries, and it means you're accessible to anybody who you come in contact with who likes what you've got to say. I think this has to be the future.
Oh, it is the future. I mean,
it's not the present.
Well, it is the present too, isn't it? I mean, that's what I love about it, because you do get, going back to what I was trying to say, it's like you do get emails from London, from Scotland, sometimes from Ireland, and you get this phenomenal music that you wouldn't actually even, I just would never hear it otherwise. You wouldn't know about these artists. I think it's incredible. I've done this for a couple of months, but I mean, it's been an incredible trip. It's kind of like a drug, You get a little bit of it, right? You have a couple of submissions, and you're like, great stuff. Like that song by Apostle, for example. And then
killer track.
Yeah. Incredible. And then you get another one, and then before you know, I mean, you're clicking through them, listening to more and more and more. And of course, one of the things you got to be very careful about is that you don't promise too much, because there are just so many hours a day. And I mean, the People and the Poet have a new song now, and it's top notch. Finished the review yesterday. Probably send it over to you this Friday.
Well, so let's go down this for a little bit, because you don't make your living as a music curator, do you? You work you have business, you have other things that go on in your life. So there's only a finite amount of time you can spend on curating your playlist. As you get bigger, as your playlist gets bigger, as Musicto gets bigger, we are growing, and we are just getting more and more visible. There are more tracks getting submitted. How are you going to handle that when you've got more and more tracks coming into you?
That's a good question. I think that you do whatever you can, right? I mean, let's say you get, I mean, it's a daunting thought, though. I mean, let's say you get 20 a day. That's a lot. One of the great things about it right now is that you do get to give them all a good listen. I mean, I think that I wrote in one of the posts that lots of times these days people listen to a track for about 20 seconds. And 20 seconds from the beginning, and then they make up their mind, which really doesn't make any sense to me, because lots of times being a vintage, if you think about, for example, that Paul Simon song, that Boxer, The Way It Grows, you don't really know what the song is about if you just listen to the first 20 seconds. You never find out. And so I think that the way the industry is going right now doesn't suit me at all, because I like to listen to all of it. The first 20 seconds aren't enough.
So there has to be, because and we touched on this with Matt last week, and it's something that I'm using these interviews with curators to actually take the time to actually look into some of the challenges that are coming our way. So here's the thing: we get big, and you've now got 20 tracks a day coming into you. There's no way you can, unless you're making your living from your playlist, which is the end goal, but certainly for the next 2 or 3 years, or 2 years, whatever. You don't have the time to listen to 20 tracks a day. So there has to be a filter. There has to be some way or some mechanism.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's say that somebody sends me a track that isn't sung in English, which happened. And then obviously, if lyrics are important from the perspective of what you're doing, and you do not speak the language, and it's basically for English speaking music, then you disregard that. And so, but then again, I think that thankfully I don't get 20 a day yet.
It's coming though.
Yeah, it is coming though, because it's going up. The amount is going up. I don't have any answer to that. Although I have to say that if the track is incredibly wrong for your list, that it's just completely wrong, that you can hear pretty soon, in the sense that everybody has a criteria for what they're doing. If you look at, there's Music to Celebrate Life, there's Music to Bleed Neon to, by the way, which was an incredible name. I am completely in love with the name. I think that's, don't you think? I mean,
I love it. I mean, it's a killer list, isn't it? It has that.
I love it. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Very impressed. Very impressed.
So
and excited.
It's. I mean, I love it. I mean, the playlist. Bank that to one side, but I want to go into this because I think there's an idea that I'm formulating. I want to check my understanding with you. So, in a world where there's too much music to listen to and you've got 20 tracks coming in, there has to be a filter. There has to be a mechanism to filter that out. And the one that is being adopted by a lot of places is to put a financial barrier in place. Mm. So, and you see this with Submit Hub, and I'm a fan of Submit Hub. I like what they're doing. I just, there's Human that have come out, and basically what they say to the artists submitting the tracks is, give us $5, per track submission, and the curator will take the time to listen to it.
And provide feedback. I think that's,
So what do you think about that?
I think it's a great idea. I think that one of the things that people actually, one of the things that I remember when I started, I must have been 19, when I started sending my music somewhere. The worst thing was that I did not get any feedback lots of times. Nobody would ever even acknowledge the fact that they got my song.
Right.
And I mean, it's a little bit different when you've got a major label, putting it out, right? And then you get reviews and you get this and that. It's a completely different ball game. And I'm very fortunate to have experienced that as well. But when you're starting out, the worst thing is that you don't hear back from anyone. And so going back to what you were asking me, I think that if we can guarantee a listen and a couple of lines, I think that we'd make a lot of people very happy, to be honest with you.
I just have an ethical problem, not ethical problem. I see it as short term. I see it as I've been a broke starting artist, and if I want to get my track out to 50 places, I don't have the dough. I don't have the money, I don't have the credit cards to send it out.
But I mean, surely we wouldn't be asking $5 for. I mean, it'd be more like, well, I don't know what Submit Hub is. Is it $1 a track or?
No, on some of the more popular lists, they can up it to €5 or even more years, because right. But then you create a market to listen to your music, and I think it's just fundamentally flawed.
Oh yeah, I mean it's if you put it like that, sure, it's wrong. It doesn't sound right at all. But then you also have to, what's the alternative though?
Well, the alternative is time, because I think. Here's what I'm seeing, because I have a backdoor to every track submission that comes into Musicto. I don't have time to see them, but occasionally I scan through them. And we've done one of the biggest referrals into Musicto comes from our Medium channel. And you've written for the Medium channel. It's cool. And you've got another post going up on there, which I'm a little late publishing. But it's how to best submit your track, and it's about how to get your track, and it's about time, because just philosophically for me, I think the only thing you've got on the planet is time. Money comes and goes, all this comes. Time is the only thing you can't get more of. And as a playlist curator, you are giving your time to listen to somebody's track, and I think rather than them paying $5, because then what happens, you get some dough and then you just spray shot everything out. I think it's fair for an artist to spend at least 5 or 10 minutes writing out and giving you a reason why you should listen to their track. And if they can't articulate that, then why the hell are they writing songs in the first place?
Right. Always have an audience, don't you? I mean, imaginary. When you write a song, yeah, I mean, you have to sort of try to figure out who's going to listen to it, who's going to like it.
I think as we develop, we should toughen up the track submission process, not put a financial barrier in front of it, but really have, because 50-60% of the track submissions are just bullshit. They're...
Well, this is interesting because I actually disagreed with you. Little did I know that I would actually agree with you in a couple of months. I think that once they start flooding in, and once you start going through them, you realize rather soon that, okay, so this guy didn't bother to read the description of the list or the introduction to the list or what have you at all, nor did he take the time to listen to the music that's actually there. And it is slightly sort of, I don't know, aggravating a little bit because, yeah, sure. Because, of course, the time that you took to listen to a track or to click it open, to read, if there's a bio or whatever, follow the link. I mean, it sounds petty when you say that I just lost 5 minutes on this, but in a way, I mean, yeah, you did. And I, if it's just that the track is good, but sometimes I actually have written emails where I say that, look, I like your track, but in terms of the lyrics, I'm sorry, they just, I'm looking for it from the perspective of the list. I'm looking for something else, but you made a fan. That has happened. But you see, the trick here is that when you're submitting stuff, you should actually check it out. Check out what the person running the list is actually looking for. Right. Because if we're celebrating life here, and somebody sends a song about, I don't know, very shallow song about dancing, which I, by the way, might like. I actually, yeah, I like it,
but not on that list.
Right, not on that list. So you're wondering, why? No, it has the word celebrate. And this is where I sort of started on this idea. I said to my friend that I should have called it music to reflect on life, perhaps. But I mean, it's celebrate and it's basically there, right?
The positive vibe of it. It's cool.
Yeah, I do like it too.
But talk to me about the lyrics, because I mean, you do. I mean, you've been a songwriter all your life, I would imagine. Yeah. When did you first start writing songs?
I don't know. I when I was 5 or 6. Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, I think that my first song was from the time that I was 5. It was called Coca-Cola Song. I mean, I was a kid. I mean, it was fun. If anybody's watching this and they have little kids, maybe a 5-year-old, if that 5-year-old knows how to play guitar and you tell him to write a song, it's probably gonna be called Coca-Cola something or Big Mac or what have you. Because basically, and I remember that because I was very proud of the song, because the idea was that I even remember the lyrics, when you drink it once, you drink it twice, and then you drink it for the rest of your life. I mean, it's right, but
you get to 25 and you
I was 5. I was 5. Yeah. And it sort of it evolved from that. I think that then there was hot chocolate, and later on, I must have been like 8 or 9 when I started writing songs about girls. That's when I was sort of realizing that, okay, so maybe here's how you do it, a little bit more than that. But I mean, they weren't very great. I do remember, I don't know why I have a memory like that. Memory of an elephant, I think, is the phrase. For better or worse, and usually it's for worse, that I remember all these things. The lyrics stayed with me.
Do you remember when your lyric writing changed? When?
Yeah, one of the greatest things about writing with my brother was that even though he wasn't the I was the one who was writing more lyrics. I mean, I think that but then again, he said we were writing songs, and I think it was Carmen Gray's second album, and I said that, listen, dude, I think we can do better. And I remember I was a bit offended at first, because we were both writing music and lyrics. It wasn't that he was writing music, but I felt that, what do you mean? And he said that, well, listen, check out what Robbie Williams is doing. And I'm like, oh, come on, because he was in Take That and all that. And some of the early stuff isn't that great, but there's a time period, for example, like I'm trying to think of the songs that I like. Better Man is the one that's actually I kind of like that lyric. And then there's like that song where he says that when I want sick, okay, let's get sexed up or whatever. And I noticed that he's using a lot of phrases like, there were characters like Brando and Elvis. And when he writes great lyrics, he's absolutely brilliant. When he writes dance lyrics, not so much. That's my opinion, of course. But if you check out some of the more lyrical stuff, it's actually pretty damn good.
When your brother challenged you, I mean, what happened? How did you develop?
Well, it's interesting. I started paying more attention to, for example, what Don Henley of the Eagles was doing. I started reading lyrics. I actually, to be really honest with you, I stopped writing for a couple of months, and I went through all the Beatles lyrics, just not listening to the music, but just reading the lyrics, like Across the Universe, for example, which is one of my favorite Lennon lyrics. And Sympathy for the Devil by the Stones.
Amazing lyric, isn't it?
Just incredible, just out of this world. And what I'm saying is, if you take that lyric and you compare it to Baby, I Want to Dance with You, I don't want to go into the territory because there's going to be a lot of people watching like, nothing. And they're probably right. But I mean, it's a different level of it in terms of, one is philosophical, it puts you in a pensive mood, if you will, and so I went through all these songs that I thought had great lyrics, and it wasn't just, hey, the Beach Boys, Pet Sounds album, incredible lyrics by Tony Asher. The Smile Project that Wilson never finished, a song called Surf's Up that actually they released in the early 70s, which is probably one of the best rock lyrics ever by Van Dyke Pops.
Incredible song. I mean, Bernie Taupin. I mean, Elton John's lyrics.
There you go. And so I started reading these stuff. I just wanted to learn. I thought that if I familiarize myself with what they're doing, and this was right before the Gates of Loneliness album, and so I think that we did good on that. I'm pretty proud of that, and I think that my brothers too. And
do you journal, or do you? I mean, when you're in a writing session, how do you do it?
The two of us.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, one of us has an idea. I mean, it's just actually we still write together on and off, and he might come and he's got an idea for the verse, the melody or the lyrics, and then we start from that and just kind of finish it right there and then. The odd thing is that even though we don't always see eye to eye on stuff, we've never had a dry session, never ever. You give us a couple of hours, couple of guitars, and sort of a nice space, we'll put together a song. I can't sort of guarantee that it's one of our best, but I mean, it's
my favorite gig. My favorite gig that I've ever had in my life was on a country gig, and it was for 3 years, and every Wednesday was the writing day. And I would take the train down to San Clemente. I'd work with Kelly in talent, and so she was the singer. And we would write a song from that 10 to 3. It was a 5-hour session. You're right, a couple of guitars, keyboard in the room, and I would have a whiteboard, and you might have an idea, and you throw that up. And it's bloody hard, you know, to get to push through, and you get an idea. And we might have written, what, 85 songs over that 2+ year period, of which maybe 50 made it into the rehearsal room with the band, of which maybe 30 got worked up, of which maybe 15 I'm bloody proud of. But it's, you know, people think, oh, what an easy, but it's an insane process, and it
is. And you know what? The when we were actually starting to have radio hits, that's when it got a little bit tricky, you see, because then when you get one, the recording company is expecting you to write another one. And so we developed it almost into sort of, I think that expectations ran high, and we certainly didn't want to, you know, fail. And so we would basically be writing one song for a long time. The basic stuff first, you know, the melody and the chords, even those we might alter them a little bit. But that's when it got serious, you see. I think that in the beginning, it was just fun. And, you know, it's sort of a creative experience. It always was very creative. But I remember writing, for example, a song called Heroes and Losers, which ended up being a nice radio hit for us. But I remember writing it with my brother, and it took us a while to figure out, you know, what's the word we're going to use here? It wasn't sort of, it became laborious a little bit, you know. So, you know, do we use the word soundtrack here or broken here? Or
it's bloody work, you know?
Yeah,
that's what you do.
Right.
So, I mean, but that, I mean, to me, that's one of the reasons. I mean, I look at your list, and I look at the writing, and I look at your love of the lyric, and it's clearly apparent that you have lived in that space, so you can bring some of that back in. And generally on the tracks that you're seeing, apart from the tracks that aren't right, I mean, I've noticed your commentary on, you always comment on the lyrics. I mean, are you hopeful for, you know, the state of lyrics and music going forward?
Well, the thing is that before I started writing for Musicto, I wasn't hopeful. I was not. But I mean, with artists like the poet Rob Murphy, Apostle, I'm actually finding out that rock and roll isn't dead. Great. You know, there are a bunch of people out there that are just amazing writers. But the problem for me is that they're not major label artists. You know, that you got to discover them. And but I'm a lot more calmer now in terms of, you know, because I was panicking, you know, a little bit before I started writing for you. I mean, because if you just listen to the radio and you look at all the talent shows and you look at the level, no, I mean, really, where's the depth in that? I mean, yeah, I mean, you become, you know, you get concerned, don't you? I mean, it's not like when you turn on the radio, there's going to be Eleanor Rigby. Usually there's going to be something like, you know, I don't know, Grab Me, Honey, you know, and
I think I'm incredibly hopeful about it. And I think, you know, I go up and down with music too. Some days I, you know, wake up, in particular the last, you know, week or so, we're here in Scotland and away and different things going on. I'm like, oh my God, is it going to work? You know, how are we going to get through? And yet, you know, I get to speak with you, and it's like, you know what? If we just continue doing this, if we continue showing up, then there's more music's going to go in, your list grows, and the audience grows. And when the playlists grow their audience, everything changes because it has value. And then you'll get more tracks submitted, but the quality of the track goes up as other people start to notice you, and then your audience grows again. It becomes that. I love hearing from you that it's becoming addictive, that, you know, that social feedback of here's a good track, and suddenly, bam, you're in that position.
It is, like I said, it's sort of, it is addicting, isn't it? You know, to be doing this. And as a matter of fact, the weird thing is that, and I know we're almost out of time, but the weird thing here is that when we had the first Skype interview, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be doing this, you know, because I was counting the hours once again. We've touched upon that topic. And you kind of encouraged me, you know. You said that you just give it a try. If it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. And I'm so happy you did that, you see, because if I hadn't done this, it would have been one of the worst mistakes of my life. I mean, I love, the fact that I got a platform now, to write, and I get to listen to all these new bands, new songs, and check out the other curators list, be in touch with you, see what's happening. I love the community. I'm just very fortunate to be part of this, to be honest with you, and thankful that you sort of were able to say the right things, that I decided that I'm gonna find the time.
Hey, I'm a very lucky man. Let's put it that way. So I'm developing this question. So the final question is, all right, let's jump forward in the time machine. It's 3 years, yeah? And this interview exists. And as you know, I mean, we could speak for another like 4 hours, or 100 of these.
I'd have to get that glass of wine, though, you know.
But let's say it's 2 or 3 years time, and it's worked, yeah. And the list has thousands and tens of thousands of subscribers, and you've got 20, 30,000 social followers, and people are sending you tracks and you're signing. If you went back and looked at this video, which we all do, you've now finished it. What would you want to say to yourself now?
Keep doing what you're doing and try even harder. Listen to more songs. Just write more reviews. I mean, I sent you that message about starting another list.
Yeah, I'm going to have this discussion with somebody in the next. I don't know who the next curator is up. Here's the thing, which I think I will leave for everybody. It's not enough at the moment just to send the track in and do the write-up. That will be enough when we're big. But right now, we need to be showing people what we've got. And this is the challenge that we have to overcome, and whether we overcome it through community, or we overcome it with technology, or we overcome it with money. Money would be awesome, but we don't have the money at the moment. But we need to be spending those 5 or 10 minutes a day, and that's the hardest thing, because the communities can write, they can send it in, they can share it, but it's 5 minutes on Monday, it's that 5 minutes on Tuesday. That's what we need to get, and
which is what I meant by try even harder.
Right. And so I've got a couple of people want to do a second list. I run 2 lists myself, and I have to offload one because I'm not doing either of them the best that I've got. And what I'm saying to people is, I'm not opposed to people doing 2 lists, but what I know to be true is that if the curators who want to do a second list take the time that they would use for that second list and invest it in marketing their first list.
Here's the fun. I gotta respond to that, because here's the thing. I got so super excited about that second list. All right, and this will basically be in perfect harmony with what you just said. And so here's me. I go, I write a blurb for the list and what have you. And then after that, I start thinking, how am I going to keep doing 2 posts every week? How do I, because you got to prove these things as well. You got to read through them. It's a long process. Even if you're just sending the track, the picture, and what have you, even that's a lot of work. And so to do it for 2 lists, started to be a little bit daunting, but the point that I wanted to make is that, you see, it's kind of weird, because when I started this, I wasn't sure I wanted to do even 1 list. And so after a couple of months, I've actually enjoyed it so much that in the heat of creativity, I actually thought that I'm going to shoot an email here. I'm going to send Andrew a message. I'm doing freaking 100 lists from now.
Look, as we roll I absolutely, I can see curators, you know, and certain curators who have the time and who grow to do more lists. Absolutely. But I think certainly for this quarter and next quarter, that I really want the focus to be back on marketing, because that's going to increase the social feedback. The more marketing we do, the more sharing that we do, that is what's going to drive the visibility of your list, and that will drive audience, which in turn drives track submission, which in turn drives quality of input, and you know the social cycle continues.
Also, I know we're out of time. There's a point there. I think it's better to do things well. Yeah. You know, take the time. But anyway, I guess this. I know you got an interview coming up in 3 minutes.
6. But okay. I could talk all bloody night with you. With all the curators, it's brilliant. Tommy, thank you so much for your time. Go check out Tommy's list. It's Music to Celebrate Life. It's brilliant. The writing is fabulous. I highly recommend it. Tommy, thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Cheers.